All right, Donald Trump's indictment. What's actually going on here? Let me break this down really, really simply. He was charged with 34 counts of the same thing, falsifying business records in the first degree. And in New York, that's considered a Class E felony. Now, in the scheme of things, it is higher than any misdemeanor, but is the lowest level felony. And that is punishable by up to 5 years in prison per count. So 5 times 34, looking at a lot of time, but at the same time, realistically, that is likely not to happen here. So what actually took place? A lot of people are talking about Stormy Daniels and this and that and Michael Cohen. Look, the bottom line is what the government in New York is alleging is that during the presidential campaign, Donald Trump knew that there was going to be a lot of bad press and a lot of bad stories about him. So what they're alleging he did was basically get a small group of people, including a lawyer he really trusted and a guy that was in charge of the National Enquirer and other media entities, and they met together and said, look, if this stuff comes out, it's going to be really bad against me. So you guys, what you need to do is you need to go find bad information that might come out and stop it before it does. The government, the state in New York is calling that the catch and kill scheme. So it wasn't just about Stormy Daniels. It was actually about her. It was about a doorman that had a story that potentially was going to be damaging about another kid Donald Trump may have had out of wedlock. It was about this other woman that also was alleging an inappropriate relationship with Trump outside of his marriage. And so there's all these things that this group of guys were doing to find and then allegedly paying off so that information wouldn't come out just prior to the election, where, of course, Donald Trump was elected president in 2017. So between 2015 and the end of 2016, Cohen and others were on the hunt for stuff that could damage Trump, at least according to the district attorney's office out there in New York. So why are there 34 counts of the same thing, falsifying a business record? And why are we not talking about stuff that really would matter a lot more? Well, frankly, it appears that this is all that prosecuting authority thinks they can go on, and they think that they've got it because they've secured testimony from people like Michael Cohen who are willing to testify against the former president. So in a nutshell, what are these business records? It's a bunch of checks written to Michael Cohen and invoices written to him, among other people, that were paybacks, reimbursements basically, for hush money payments that occurred during and actually after the presidential election. But what makes it criminal? Here's what they're saying. It's criminal because you can't falsify a business record, and these checks are business records. The invoices are business records. And of course, they didn't write on the check. Donald Trump didn't say the subject line, installment 1 of 12 for hush money payment to Michael Cohen reimbursement on that Stormy Daniels thing that might have tanked my candidacy. Instead, what they wrote was, here's the installment for the retainer agreement for legal fees. And there was no retainer agreement between the president and Michael Cohen for reimbursement. So that was, according to them, a lie. And the invoice that was then paid through the Trump organization that check was attached to, another piece of paper, was falsified. Here's an invoice to pay a retainer. When there was no retainer, it was just an installment payment for reimbursement for Michael Cohen basically doing dirty work for Donald Trump. So count 1, count 2, times 12 months, there's 24. And there were other instances like this of just basically making up the reason that we're making payments out to these people when in reality it was for purpose A, which might have not looked too good. So we're just going to say it was for a legitimate business purpose. And by the way, we're going to run it through the Trump organization, and we're going to make up a reason that just isn't the actual reason that we made these payments. So anyway, the district attorney's office is saying, hey, we've got this 34 different times of falsified records. Now, obviously, we had people go to prison, well, people go to jail on the January 6th issue and all these other bigger things, but it looks, at least at this phase in the game, this is what this prosecuting authority thinks they can bring against Trump. Is it politically motivated? Probably, but I'm not here to go into the politics of right or wrong or Democrat, Republican. I honestly don't care. What matters here from a legal analysis is, can they prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Donald Trump committed this falsifying business records in the first degree? The prosecution is also going to have to prove that Trump knew that by falsifying these, he was trying to evade some other criminal activity. And what could that be? Well, campaign fraud potentially might be the theory that they're going on, or some kind of tax evasion might be what they're going on. But really, they have to pull an intent from Donald Trump to say he knew that it would have been a crime that he was trying to conceal. His activities were criminal in nature. And so by concealing this, by falsifying the records, he was avoiding some criminal implication. And on top of that, he knew that these records, those checks, those invoices were being falsified when they were put into the books at the Trump Organization. So while it seems like the evidence against Trump is big, Trump is one of the best I think we've ever seen at being able to craft a narrative and being able to explain anything away. He famously said he could stand, in the middle of New York City and shoot somebody in the head and get away with it. That's about to be put to the test here.